So I'm here with Derek Kreifels. Now, he is the CEO of the State Financial Officers Foundation in New York. What does one of those do?
As the CEO of the State Financial Officers Foundation, I represent 35 state financial officials from 28 American states.
Right.
And basically, these are state elected officials who are the chief financial officers for their states. So states like Florida, Texas, California, or not California, Kansas, Nebraska, states like that.
So what do they do in their states? And are they in charge of the finances of that state?
Yeah, it kind of depends from state to state, but generally speaking, they manage the cash flow, the checkbook for the state. Many of them manage their pension funds or sit on the pension boards. Some of them manage other different investment accounts. But many of them have been really engaged with policy in terms of anything that's financial related, whether it's tax related or budget policy. They work closely with their governors to help determine, states' bond ratings, things like that.
I see. Now, so one of the topics that I found quite fascinating, I know that you obviously get to sort of talk about, because I presume in your role, you probably deal with this, is this ESG.
Yes.
And people are talking about this a lot. First of all, can you explain what it is and why companies get involved with it?
Yeah. Environmental, social, and governance investing is what the ESG stands for. I think it was designed in a way that meant to do some good in the world in terms of environmental sustainability, social change, governance issues on publicly traded companies, boards like that. But what we've really seen in the United States is ESG become a way to coerce other companies and businesses to do things that they may not normally do. What we like to say is...
Well, like what?
So I often say ESG is a way for the progressives of America to advance their social policy changes that they know that they can't get passed in Congress, and they know that they can no longer get passed in the courts.
Okay. So examples of, for example, Dylan Mulvaney being used as an influencer.
Perfect example.
With Anheuser-Busch for Bud Light.
Bud Light, obviously,
it
was a mismeasurement on their part.
Right.
They didn't, really read the room, so to speak, know who their main primary customers in the United States were. And they thought that, putting a transgender male on the can of a beer can would somehow help them. And, it really created this huge drawback. So the E tends to be a push on environmental issues. Many of our states that I work with come from rich coal, natural gas, and oil states, where those industries are the primary engine economically for those states like West Virginia, Texas, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Kentucky. And a lot of them have said, we are market participants too. And if you're a large bank or a large asset manager and you've created an internal ESG policy that says, we're no longer going to do business with you if you're promoting those industries, our states are simply saying, we don't have to do business with you.
Well, that's lucky. But if you're in, say, the situation, so we have Nigel Farage in this country.
Yes, and the debanking situation.
Well, the debanking thing, this would have been based on ESG scores. And I presume, what happened was that his values did not align with their values. And so they were penalizing him politically. But it wasn't just him. It just wasn't just that bank. It was 10 banks. And so this is getting quite serious.
It is. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It started with the Canadian truckers, of course, that were protesting the COVID lockdowns in Canada. We saw, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, pushed some of the most socialistic policies out to basically, prevent people from donating money to these protesters, showing up at people's houses.
Wow.
With the police to ask why they made contributions to these protesters.
Wow.
And we saw that in the United States as a real red flag of what could be coming to the United States. We've now seen some banks like JP Morgan Chase, debanked an organization, the former ambassador for religious freedom under President Trump, a guy named Sam Brownback, started a nonprofit organization that was for religious freedom, for all religions. And JP Morgan Chase debanked him because they didn't agree with what they were doing. And so, we see Wells Fargo going after small businesses that they don't think politically align with them. We're seeing many examples of this happen in the United States. I'm hearing here at the ARC event, other examples happening around the world of banks that, a lot of times it's not even so much that they're mentioning it's because of ESG anymore. It's just because politically they don't agree with you.
But the beginnings of it has started with an acceptance of this kind of ideology within organizations, and it's proliferated into people making up their own decisions as to whether they think you're the right kind of person for.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have that very situation here at GB News, where a lot of the advertisers were, an organization called Stop Funding Hate, basically claimed that we were a hateful organization that people should not advertise on the channel.
Yeah.
Before we'd even broadcast a second of output.
Yeah.
And it's all of this that has become such a huge part of business now.
Yeah, the cancel culture.
It all comes back
to a global cancel culture.
It's come to that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it happens every day in the U.S. If you say something wrong, if you say something that's not popular, that doesn't go along with what the left's narrative is, then they sick all the students from Berkeley or from Harvard on you to basically try to cancel you and render you a useless public figure.
Although, to be fair, some organizations who are supposedly on the left have had their bank accounts and things like that cancelled as well. So it seems to become, it's almost like an infectious thing. Do you think that it's narrowing now? Do you think things are changing because of people like GB News, because of events like this where more people are able to speak out?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we're starting to see ESG, we're starting to see large asset managers and banks pull away from ESG. We saw Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock,
I was going to ask about that.
make the comment that he was ashamed of being associated with ESG, but now he's calling it conscientious capitalism.
Oh, right. So same thing, different word.
And so, I think that's kind of the progressive left's MO, right? Is once we figure out what it is, what the acronym really means, they change it and we'll call it something else. And so we're going to continue to fight. I think, events like ARC being here, it's been amazing to see leaders from Sweden and Brazil and Germany and Poland and other countries and here in Great Britain that have come up and said, we have felt like we've been on an island for so long fighting back against ESG and other issues. Only 13% of Brits know what ESG even is, right?
Well,
but the basic is that they're using pension dollars for their political agenda.
Yeah.
They're using your investment dollars and your investments in retirement for their political agenda, and many times at the cost of the returns.
Wow. Look, if it weren't for events like this, GB News and people like you, then the world would not know about this. So at least we're talking about it now.
That's right.
Thank you so much for talking
Janet, thank you so much for having me.
Lovely.